let's get to some of these SEC jobs here because there is, or battles here, because there is a clear have and have not. We've talked about the conference; it's the best quarterback conference in America, but that's because like the top 6 or 7 or 8 teams in this league have a very established or clear cut heir apparent to the throne. There's a lot of battles though that could be taking place in this conference, and this will happen throughout, obviously, throughout the course of spring and summer, etc. So I do think, though, however, based on our scale of Urban Meyers, 5 Urban Meyers being just a huge lie, and 1 Urban Meyer being, we got an actual quarterback battle here. The fact that you put Florida on this list is fascinating to me, just because of our Urban Meyer jokes, but also because Graham Mertz is clearly the guy, but also because DJ Lagway is a guy that's going to see the field.
Yeah, that's really why Florida made our list here, is the fact that they have this 5-star prospect that if you watch the 30 seconds of so of video, you get enamored with the skill set and the ability that you've seen in spring practice already at Florida. But I still think that this job is very much Graham Mertz's, especially with the opener against Miami. They play Texas A&M early in the season as well. Mertz was one of the biggest surprises among quarterbacks for me last season. I mean, completed over 70% of his passes, was believed to be one of the worst in the SEC, and ended up being a fringe all-conference candidate last year. So I think it's a battle in the sense of it'll be interesting to see if Lagway can push Mertz, but I think the reality is Mertz in the second year of this system is going to be tough to beat out, even for a 5-star prospect. The flip side of that is, and I think this is a very likely scenario, would not surprise me to see Florida find a way to play Lagway frequently during this year.
Yep. This is Anthony Richardson. This is, I think, Jake Fromm and Justin Fields. There's going to be a package for Lagway for sure. There's no question about that. How about the Auburn Tigers? Payton Thorne, of course, is still around. Hugh Freeze is going to, be more involved in the play calling. Like this is, the offense can't really get any worse from a passing game standpoint. How real of a battle is this at Auburn?
I'm going to go with like somewhere in the middle of the road here, maybe like a 3 on our rating scale here. Okay. I think it's tough for me to see one of the quarterbacks beating out Payton Thorne in the spring. He came in late last season and was up and down. So he came in after spring practice, ended up winning the job in the summer and the fall. Up and down, like I said, one of the lowest rated quarterbacks in the SEC yards per attempt, but he also gave them, I think, more of a rushing presence, I think, than we anticipated. So he did some good things.
Yeah.
I think the question is the sort of cohesive mesh that we've heard about the staff. This is Hugh Freeze's guys. He's reset. They should be better at receiver this year with the transfers plus the freshman class. Second year of Payton Thorne, is everybody on the same page? And is that connection just better as a result of that? We'll see. I don't know what the upside is for Payton Thorne. I feel like it's maybe not extremely high, but also I feel like there's a really solid floor that he could give you. Otherwise, your options are Holden Garner, Hank Brown, or the true freshman Walker White, which is, I think, the one that I think if you're at Auburn or you're just a fan of the SEC, you really want to see how far he progresses this offseason.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see the true freshman who's not quite ready yet press for time, because it means he's clearly good enough to be in the conversation. So we shall see. Auburn is utterly fascinating, but I think 3's about right. I don't think it's a real battle, but I wouldn't be surprised. I do think the offense, the passing game will be better. Also, they did have a lead against Alabama and Georgia in the second half with Payton Thorne at quarterback. How about South Carolina? LaNorris Sellers is the guy. It appears. I have talked to some folks that say the phrase Cam Newton when they talk about him, and that's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy. I don't know if Shane Beamer can wait. So are you lying to me about this? Is this a 5 Urban Meyers here, or do you think there's a real quarterback battle at South Carolina?
I'm not buying there's a huge quarterback battle here, Braden. I think it's closer to the line scale. I think as Robby Ashford is obviously, I think when you look at what Sellers did last season in limited time, it was very impressive. He had the touchdown run, and he was was a 4 for 4 or whatever it was against Furman. Like, he was awesome in those limited snaps. The upside, everything you hear behind the scenes, is that he could be a real difference maker for South Carolina. And I think you're maybe seeing like a subtle sort of shift in this offensive philosophy, especially while Sellers kind of grows into the job. Robby Ashford does a lot of the same things. He's very up and down as a passer, but he's also very mobile. So
Yep.
you could see how they could lean on some of this sort of same style quarterback stuff early on. I don't think it's much of a job. I think Sellers is going to be the guy for South Carolina, but it seems like reading between the lines, Ashford's going to get a chance to battle
Yeah.
for the job. So to some extent, it's one of those quarterback and name onlys. While Sellers is the guy for South Carolina.
Okay, so maybe it's a 4 because if things go south for a freshman quickly, you can see the quick hook because you have a guy who's been around at least a long time in Ashford as a backup. So I'll drop that down. I think there's maybe a touch more of a battle here, but man, there's nothing better to sell in football on any level than hope, and there's no better way to sell hope than with a 5-star true freshman quarterback. Sometimes it's even more sellable when he's on the bench. Just going to point that out.
Yeah.
Tennessee fans. So Arkansas, how about the Hogs here? Taylon Green, of course, transfers in. You got Bobby P. How much of a battle was this, or are you lying to me?
I think it was a battle at the start of spring practice. However, I think reading between the lines so far and some of the reporting out of Fayetteville, it does seem like Taylon Green is the guy for Arkansas. Barring a surprise performance by Malachi Singleton or Jacoby Criswell over the next couple weeks, I think Taylon Green is your guy for Arkansas. So I think this would have rated higher earlier this offseason on the quarterback battle scale. I think it's fallen because it really seems like Green is kind of putting some distance as the starting quarterback.
This is where our gimmick about calling everything Urban Meyers is a little complicated because it's gotten less interesting and therefore the number has gone up.
Yeah.
Like you're not lying to me as much, so therefore it's 5 Urban Meyers. So you are lying to me, but like 2 Urban, it's where it used to be was 2 Urban Meyers. It was a battle. Now it's not a battle, so it's 4 or 5 Urban Meyers.
Okay. Yeah, it's fallen from like 2 to 4. Yeah,
exactly. It's fallen from 2 to 4. I think we have some flaws in our execution of this concept. Mississippi State. Blake Shapen, of course, this is the guy that I really liked at Baylor when he came in and won some games for them, like what feels like 100 years ago, en route to the Big 12 championship game. How many are you lying to me? Is this a real battle or is it Shapen's job?
I think we probably should go with 4 here in that it's probably not much of a quarterback battle. Obviously, Will Rogers transferred. Michael Van Buren, the true freshman, probably the future or at least the next guy upside play there at Mississippi State. But I think you mentioned it with Blake Shapen. He showed some things at Baylor. They had some inconsistent receiver play, offensive line. Go back to that Big 12 championship game where he was a key part in beating Oklahoma State that year. If Mississippi State, with his experience, and they can sort of build around him, that gives Jeff Lebby a chance to get this offense going right away in year 1. He was handpicked by Lebby. He's being brought in with an inexperienced depth chart around him. I think he's the guy.
Yep, I tend to agree as well. You texted me Vanderbilt, and I think you're a huge liar. Don't you slander Diego Pavia's name like that? Five Urban Meyers, 6 Urban Meyers.
Yeah, I like Diego Pavia. I think for Vanderbilt, from where they were earlier this offseason, after losing their entire quarterback depth chart, to get Diego Pavia, Nate Johnson, and also Blaise Berlowitz from New Mexico State, who played well in a one game last season as sort of a limited time thing. They rebounded well. And I mentioned it. I like Diego Pavia. Go back and watch that game against Auburn, some of the things that he did there. I think fair to wonder, supporting cast is a big question. Can he consistently do it in the SEC, higher level of play? Fair to wonder.
Hey, go on the road and dominate in Auburn. Why can't you do it? Vanderbilt.
Right.
I told you this is ridiculous that you texted me and put Vanderbilt on this list. It's Diego Pavia, baby.
It's a quarterback battle in name only, in the fact that they don't have an official starter, but I would be surprised if Diego Pavia is not the starter at Vanderbilt.
5 Urban Meyers, a total liar. You are, Stephen Lassan. So there you have it. Some quarterback battles from around the conference in the country to satiate your football needs.